Moment for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 31, Employment and Labour Appropriation Bill.
It's now my pleasure to recognize the Honourable the Minister of Employment and Labour.
Honorable House Chair, Ministers and Deputy Ministers present here, Honorable Members, Acting Director General of the Department and the Senior Management, the entities of the Department as led by their respective leaders, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans. Honorable Chairperson, we present an abridged version of the Budget Vote 31 speech as a moral reckoning with the crisis of unemployment that continues to grip our country. It is a policy instrument for reform and an institutional roadmap for a department that must do more with less for more people. We meet amid the daily struggles of millions of South Africans who rise each morning with hope, but without work, young people who possess qualifications yet lack opportunity, families who stretch every rand to meet basic needs, workers who labor without adequate protection, voice, or dignity. We confront the hard truth of unemployment and inequality, which calls for us to account plainly and directly for where we stand. South Africa is not immune to global geopolitical instability. One of the more immediate risks lies in trade relations, especially within the United Nations, where uncertainty surrounds our continued participation in the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. Should access to preferential trade be restricted, the impact would be felt deeply across key labor-intensive sectors, including steel, automotive, manufacturing, textile, and agribusiness. These sectors employ tens of thousands of workers, many of whom are women, youth, and from rural communities. Thus, the importance of a stable, equitable, and fair domestic labor market becomes even more critical. Labor laws remain a central defense, ensuring decent work conditions, protecting vulnerable workers, and supporting business continuity amid uncertainty. Emerging from a history in which the majority were denied dignity, decent work, and protection in the workplace, the labor laws of this country have undergone significant transformation. They are now structured to create a fair, dynamic, and harmonized labor market that supports inclusive growth and economic transformation. These laws respond to evolving work arrangements, emerging technologies, and persistent inequalities. During the 2024-25 financial year, the department promulgated 3 regulations: explosives, physical agents, and noise exposure. Further, we published the construction regulations for public comments. These seek to align occupational health and safety laws with the Constitution, promoting fair labor practices, and ensures coherence with related statutes such as the Labor Relations Act and the Mine Health and Safety Act. The national minimum wage has raised income levels for many low-wage workers, including domestic workers, farm workers, women, and youth. It has supported household livelihoods and local economic activity. The department is advancing the National Labor Migration Policy and the Employment Services Amendment Bill. These instruments regulate access to employment in a fair, transparent, and rights-based manner. The approach promotes local participation while observing international obligations. I'm pleased to confirm, Honorable House Chair, that the National Labour Migration Policy has been approved by Cabinet. The Employment Services Amendment Bill was also approved by Cabinet for submission to Parliament. These provide a legal framework to regulate the employment of foreign nationals and addresses misuse by labor brokers and the exploitation of undocumented workers. Structural inequality in the workplace remains evident in employment equity data. Despite a robust legal framework transformation that has progressed, that we have implemented, but the progress is very slow since the dawn of democracy. The recently published 24th Commission for Employment Equity Annual Report indicates 62% of the top management positions are occupied by white South Africans. Women hold 26.9% of the top management and 37.7% of senior management positions. Persons with disabilities only make up to 1.2% of the workforce. These figures show continued exclusion of many qualified South Africans from full economic participation. Addressing this is essential to building equity and promoting social and economic development. The department continues to invest in new labor market research to ensure labor market policy is aligned with real-world developments. In 2025-26, research focus will be on the effects of the platform economy, including gig work on employment patterns and worker protection. The application of equal pay for work of equal value, which remains a challenge in various sectors. The use and outcomes of employment equity tools, including codes of good practice and sectoral guidelines. Conditions of decent work in the hospitality sector, where informality and vulnerability remain common. The dominance of higher education and training sector by foreign nationals in the executives. Contributions of demand-led sectors and informal sector to job creation. This budget is aligned with the national priorities outlined in the Medium-Term Development Plan 2024-29 under the Government of National Unity. Every line item in this budget has been crafted to reflect the strategic imperatives of the 7th administration as led by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, with a focus on ensuring labor market interventions contribute directly to tangible social and economic outcomes. One of the department's critical instruments to achieve this is the National Employment Policy, which is at advanced stages. This policy sets out a coordinating framework to align various policy instruments that promote employment growth. The NEP calls for a paradigm shift towards better policy coordination that enhances firm productivity and job absorption capacity, supported by macroeconomic, industrial, and skills development policies. It promotes stronger public employment programs by supporting both market and non-market forms of employment, to convert socially necessary but unpaid work into viable earning and learning opportunities, uphold the principle that everyone who wants to work should have the opportunity to do so. Working with the private sector through the government business platform, we are intensifying coordination and collaboration for jobs drive, including creating opportunities for those in need for on-the-job training or experiential training. We'll be accelerating the vital work of the National Pathways Management Network, coordinated in the presidency and operationally managed by Harambee. Notably, the South African Youth Platform, which forms part of this network, has registered over 5 million young people and placed over 1.57 million into earning opportunities, 70% of whom are women. These are not mere statistics. They reflect concrete outcomes, households supported, futures stabilized, and resilience built. Aligned with our 5-year strategic plan and the 2025-2026 annual performance plan, the department has set a target of creating 2 million job opportunities by 2030 through an integrated employment agenda. Unemployment in South Africa is a crisis. As of the first quarter of 2025, the official unemployment rate stood at 32.9%, with young unemployment at an alarming 62.4%. These figures speak to the urgency of placing employment at the heart of the national development. We are building a whole of government, whole of society approach of employment. one that is inclusive, strategic, and accountable. No job creation effort, whether in infrastructure, public works, industrial policy, or social economy, should exist in isolation. The department will ensure all efforts are connected and directed toward common outcomes, particularly for youth, women, persons with disability, and the long-term unemployed. The department plays a central role in shaping the labor market through regulation, social protection, job placement, and institutional development. In a constrained fiscal environment, we are guided by realism, though not deterred by limited resources. Instead, we are responding with innovation through reprioritization, institutional redesign, and administrative reform. For 2025-26 financial year, the Department of Employment and Labor has been allocated 4.153 billion rand, distributed as follows: 1.598 billion rand for compensation fund, enabling core services delivery by funding inspectors, career counselors, client service staff, and provincial managers. 694.789 million rand for goods and services, covering critical operations, ICT tools, and stakeholder engagements that drive daily functionality. 1.738 billion rand for transfers and subsidies, supporting key partnerships with CCMA, Productivity SA, NETLEC, and civil society actors involved in employment activation. 121.033 million rand for capital assets, financing digital infrastructure upgrades and modernization of labor centers and satellite offices. Major social protection interventions will be delivered through the Unemployment Insurance Fund and CF. In 2025-26, the UIF will manage 38.4 billion rand with 19.02 billion rand for direct benefits. Over 10.98 billion rand is allocated to labor activation program, targeting 240,000 placements this year and 690,000 over the medium term, half of which are reserved for youth, women, and persons with disability. An additional 1.4 billion rand is allocated to the TER scheme to protect jobs in distressed companies, while 55 million rand will fund the business turnaround program to assist 80 companies and save 3,750 jobs. To boost efficiency, 1.13 billion rand is committed to digital transformation, including biometric verification and integrated claims system. 17 mobile buses will be procured and extend UIF access to less serviced areas. The CF is allocated 1.6 billion rand, pensioners and injured workers, 5 billion rand for medical claims, and 1.85 billion rand for capacity building, supporting digitization, medical staffing in provinces, and outreach to vulnerable workers. In strengthening the institutional capacity as of mid-June 2025, over 79% of funded vacancies have been advertised, and we aim to reduce the vacancy rate to 12% by year end. The focus is on post-critical to service delivery, labor center operations heads, inspectors, career counselors, and frontline staff. In parallel, we are modernizing the department's digital ecosystem, bandwidth upgrades, new data center, and ICT infrastructure. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, Budget Vote 31 is a policy stance affirming that even under fiscal strain, we will honor our duty to deliver public value with urgency, clarity, and measurable outcomes. Let us be remembered not for the challenges we inherited, but for the solutions we executed. This budget reflects a state that is working visibly, efficiently, and ethically for its people. I present this Budget Vote 31 to this House. Let us use it as a lever of delivery, inclusion, and renewal. Let us move forward with purpose, with unity, and with resolve to leave no worker behind. I thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Maneli.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson, honorable members, in particular members of the Portfolio Committee on Employment and Labor, ministers and deputy ministers, in particular our Minister, Honorable Meth, Deputy Ministers Sibia and Nemadzinga Chabalala. The administration is led by ADG, leaders of entities, distinguished guests and fellow South Africans, it is with a deep sense of responsibility and unwavering commitment that I stand before you today to deliberate on the Budget Vote 31 for the Department of Employment and Labour for the fiscal year 2025-2026. While acknowledging the challenges and shortcomings, especially concerning the CCMA, we must also recognize the significant strides made towards fostering a more equitable, inclusive and productive labour market that aligns with our national development priorities. The core national objectives remain clear: to build our economy, promote decent work, and ensure that every worker and unemployed individual has access to sustainable opportunities. Our government's vision for employment and skills development is anchored in a comprehensive strategy emphasizing not just job creation, but also ensuring the quality and sustainability of employment. This strategy is underpinned by two critical pillars: an integrated employment and skills development approach and the strengthening of the labour market governance and enforcement. These focus areas aim to address the multifaceted challenges in our labour sector, fostering an environment conducive for growth, fairness and justice. In this context, House Chair, it is vital that we prioritize skills development that aligns closely with the demands of our rapidly evolving markets. Technological advancements and digital transformation are reshaping industries, compelling us to adapt swiftly to keep our workforce future ready. Our department's initiatives to leverage technology and digital platforms for trainings are commendable, as they enhance efficiency and improve access, especially in underserviced communities. Scaling up initiatives like the Labour Activation Program to target unemployed youth and vulnerable groups remains a key intervention. Its success hinges on clear, measurable milestones that emphasize lasting skills development and viable career pathways, which are vital for meaningful economic participation, particularly for the youth, women, persons with disabilities, and marginalized communities. Honorable members, recognizing the importance of a collaborative approach, fostering public-private partnerships, PPPs, has become essential in supplementing government efforts, especially during times of fiscal constraints. These collaborations mobilize additional resources, share expertise, and foster innovative solutions in reskilling and employment facilitation. Their role is increasingly vital as we navigate fiscal challenges, allowing us to extend our reach and impact beyond traditional government channels. Such partnerships also foster innovative approaches that can accelerate transitions into formal employment sectors, supporting sustainable economic growth and broadening opportunities for those who face barriers to entry in the labour market. However, amidst these efforts, we cannot ignore the existing shortfalls that threaten the integrity and effectiveness of our labour relations framework. The CCMA remains a cornerstone in mediating disputes and ensuring fair work practices, yet it faces significant resource and capacity constraints, particularly on the Essential Services Program, where the entity maintains a flat budget, which may limit its capacity to address disputes in higher-risk sectors. These limitations have led to case backlogs, delays in dispute resolution, and ultimately a compromise in workers' rights and employer confidence. The situation undermines the foundational principles of labour justice upon which our democratic gains are built. It is therefore imperative that we as a committee advocate strongly for the department to revisit budget allocations and resource planning. Our commitment must be to ensure that the department and all its entities are adequately funded, equipped with the latest technologies, and staffed sufficiently to perform its crucial mandate effectively. Addressing these constraints involves exploring every possible avenue, including legislative measures and budgeting process, to secure additional funding. It is crucial that we also focus on innovative enforcement strategies, including leveraging technology for compliance monitoring and enforcement. Enhancing capacity in this area allows us to target non-compliant employers more precisely, making enforcement both efficient and fair. Raising awareness amongst workers regarding their rights through targeted campaigns can further reduce exploitation, fostering a culture of compliance and accountability within the labor sector. Moreover, the department's strategic focus emphasizes building an inclusive, resilient, and future-ready labor market. This entails aligning our policies with broader national development objectives while responding dynamically to emerging challenges. Hence, the Employment Equity Amendment Act is essential to strengthen enforcement, promote fair employment practices, and address disparities within the labor sector. Ensuring access to sustainable opportunities remains a top priority, especially for vulnerable populations, including the youth, women, persons with disabilities, and marginalized communities. In this regard, the expansion and continuous improvement of training programs and employment services are critical. Digital platforms play a vital role in enhancing service delivery and access, particularly in remote areas, thereby ensuring that no one is left behind in our efforts to build the economy. Fellow South Africans, strong collaboration with various stakeholders, including social partners and private sector, is fundamental in these endeavors. Engagement with social partners is essential not only for oversight, but also for effective policy implementation and reform. Continuous dialogue and partnership enables us to identify gaps, develop tailored interventions, and ensure accountability for results. The department's focus on fostering inclusive growth and promoting decent work aligns with the broader constitutional values of dignity, equality, and social justice. Viewing the budget not merely as a financial allocation of 4.153 billion, but a strategic investment reinforces our collective responsibility to utilize resources efficiently for meaningful outcomes. Every rand spent should translate into tangible outcome, decent work, and sustainable livelihoods for our people. As we look to the future, our commitment must be to work collaboratively towards addressing current challenges and building a resilient, inclusive, and fair labor market. This involves not only strengthening governance and enforcement, but also innovating and adapting our policies to meet new realities. By doing so, we reaffirm the economy for all our citizens. Ultimately, our success relies on partnerships, proactive policy implementation, and rigorous oversight. We must continue engaging with stakeholders at all levels, listening to their concerns and responding with effective solutions. Our role extends beyond oversight. We are partners in reform, innovation, and realization of our national aspirations. Let us reaffirm our unwavering dedication to fostering a labor market that upholds the dignity of every worker, promotes inclusive growth, and contributes meaningfully to the social and economic development of our nation, thereby creating employment opportunities. With collective resolve and unwavering commitment, we can turn these goals into concrete realities, ensuring a brighter future where we all live and work as equals under conditions of peace as envisaged in the Freedom Charter. As the African National Congress, we support this budget, and I thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mbele.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, it's a sabotage. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I can see the minister is trying to persuade me. Unfortunately, yeah, Honorable House Chair, honorable members, before we even debate the budget and bureaucratic line items, let us confront a brutal human truth. Right now, as I stand here, there are more than 11 million South Africans without work. Picture this: if every unemployed person in this country stood in a line, shoulder to shoulder, that line would stretch from Johannesburg all the way to Cairo and back again. These are not just the numbers on a statistic sheet. These are mothers skipping meals for their children and can eat.
Fathers waking up at 4 o'clock to stand on the roadside hoping someone will pick them up for a day's work. But most days, they return home empty-handed and humiliated. And young people, the very hope, promise, of this nation, are now called the lost generation. They are graduates holding degrees in one hand and rejected letters on the other hand. This is the real state of our nation. I rise today on behalf of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party to reject the budget vote 31 on the Department of Employment and Labor for 2025 and 2026 financial year. South Africa, in the grip of deep and prolonged unemployed crisis, over 32% of our people are jobless, with youth unemployment even higher. Yet the report before us is a slap in their face of working class. It is filled with lofty promises, fancy slogans, and bureaucratic sugar-coated, but it does nothing to heal the wounds of the unemployed. Let's talk about the so-called new employment mandate. It is nothing more than a tired PR exercise. There is no serious plan to localize industry, no plan to rebuild the manufacturing, no plan to drive rural industrialization. How do we tell the people in the communities without running water to apply for jobs online? That is not transformation, that is an insult. The department is obsessed with the digitalization, imagining that every South African lives in Sandton with fiber internet and backup generation. Millions do not even have electricity, let alone data. This digital-only approach has become a new system of exclusion, another gatekeeping tool against the poor. And what about the billions being sunk into so-called labor activation program? 10 billion pumped into schemes that are nothing more than cash cow for connected elites, ghost beneficiaries, fake training, fraudulent tenders. These are not rumors, they are documented facts. Let us not forget the Petuho Security Company submitted fake documents to win tenders and received 140 million from another department, verified by the same department, now asking us to trust them with billions more. How can we sign off on budgets where the fox is guarding the hen house? Meanwhile, the unemployment insurance and compensation fund stockpiles surplus instead of helping workers put food on their table. Our people are forced to watch from the sidelines while they are supposed safety nets become vaults for bureaucratic hoarding. Then, honorable members, there is the silent sabotage of our labor market by illegal foreign nationals. Let me be clear, this is not a xenophobia, this is economic sabotage. Our citizens are displaced on farms, in kitchens, and construction sites, and in retail, not because they lack skills, but because they refuse to work for starvation wages. Employers prefer undocumented workers precisely because they can be exploited without consequences. Where is the department? Nowhere. No regulations, no enforcement, no accountability. Our own people are sidelined in their motherland. Even our public servants, the nurses, the teachers, the municipal workers, are pushed beyond their limits, paid peanuts, and forced into a recycled democratization. They become easy prey for petty corruption, and those who can live to do so. The brain drain bleeds this country of skills we invested in with taxpayers' money. What is the department's grand plan? To beg the private sector for partnership? We have been sold this neoliberal fairy tale since 1994, and it has failed us miserable. We cannot partner our way out of poverty. We cannot outsource our justice. Honorable Chair, our people do not want handouts. They want work, dignity, opportunity, real empowerment. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party stands for a new model, one that puts South Africans first in their sector, one that builds industries locally and creates real jobs, not empty slogans, one that stops treating workers as disposable commodities and starts treating them as citizens deserving of respect and fair wages, one that rejects the capture of public funds by politically connected parasites. One that rejects the capture of public funds by politically connected parasites. The Freedom Charter declares the people shall share in the country's wealth. Exactly. Today, that promise is a sick joke. The ANC, as you say, dares to involve the Charter while presiding over economic apartheid against its own people. We say enough is enough. We reject the budget vote. We reject the lies. We reject the continued betrayal of the working class. Thank you very much. And thank you for being quiet, not howling.
Thank you, Honourable van der Walt.
Honourable House Chair and members, now more than ever, governance and policy in the Department of Employment and Labour are pivotal to the future of our country. The DA advocates for a department focused on delivering on its mandate and moving towards an employment framework based on equality and opportunity. Honourable Chair, you are a member. Honourable Chair, the Unemployment Insurance Fund and Compensation Fund together will receive 39 billion rand from South African workers and businesses this year. These funds are supposed to provide a safety net in difficult times and compensate for injuries sustained while working. Instead, they are being mismanaged and wasted. My colleague, Honourable Backram, has already referred to the department's tendency to treat the UIF surplus as a credit card for its own programs. Even more worrying, Honourable Chair, is what is happening to the money contributed to the UIF and compensation fund once it reaches them. The DA is extremely concerned over the stewardship of the fund's money by the Public Investment Corporation. Each fund contributed 400 million rand to the now failed Daybreak Farms project through the PIC, money which we will likely never recover. The money workers and businesses pay to the funds must be used for their benefit, not for the benefit of the politically connected and corrupt. This is not the only area, Chairperson, where the department's entities have become deficient. The UIF's ability to pay the right people is also in question. The honourable members will be aware that the SIU has so far recovered 229 million rand in fraudulent tax payments. Here is just one example. Mrs. Kotze went on maternity leave between 21 February 22 and June the 21st, 2022. She is still waiting for her maternity UIF 3 years later. Neither does she receive any responses on her queries. There should be action taken for all cases not being dealt with appropriately within a specific time. It cannot be that those not entitled to money from the UIF find it easy to access it, whereas hard-working South Africans attempting to claim what is rightfully theirs must wait over 3 years with no payment and no reply. Chairperson, instead of focusing on the nuts and bolts of making the department and its entities work, the Minister has spent far too much time pursuing race-based quotas that will impose arbitrary numerical targets on businesses, will not lead to meaningful empowerment, and will throttle growth. South Africa must address the injustices of the past through redress and empowerment. It is precisely for this reason that we regret that the Minister has refused to consider the DA's alternative to push for real empowerment in our country. Aligning our redress framework with the UN Sustainable Development Goals will ensure that the majority of South Africans benefit rather than a small group of politically connected elites. Rather than focusing on dividing South Africans along racial lines and forcing businesses to decide on the race of employees on their behalf, we want to focus on addressing the drivers of unequal opportunity in today's South Africa. The Sustainable Development Goals give us the objective framework to do just that. Chairperson, the DA family believes that the whole government must focus firmly on jobs and growth, as our ministers have done since taking office. We hope that the Minister will change track and do the same. I thank you.
Honourable Neas.
Honourable House Chairperson, I rise today to address the 2025-26 budget allocation for the Department of Employment and Labour, a department whose name promises hope but delivers little in the face of South Africa's crippling unemployment crisis. The addition of employment to its title creates a misleading impression that this department is equipped to create jobs. Let us be clear, it has neither the capacity nor the tools to do so. A name change does not conjure jobs out of the thin air. To ground this debate, let us confront the stark reality. South Africa has 25 million people who are ready, capable, and willing to work. Yet only 16.7 million are employed across the formal sector, informal sector, agriculture, and private households. This leaves 8.2 million unemployed and over 3.5 million discouraged work seekers who have given up hope. Combined, more than 12 million South Africans are excluded from the economy. The majority are young people, women and people living with disabilities, groups systematically marginalized and left behind. It is shameful that some, including members of the former liberation movement, have the audacity to claim South Africa does not have an unemployment crisis. Such statements are not only ignorant, but an insult to the millions who wake up daily with no prospects. Equally out of touch is the department's claim that it will create 2 million work opportunities by 2030. What exactly is a work opportunity? The term is vague and the timeline is distant. Meanwhile, we lost 290,000 jobs in the last quarter alone, with the projections from economic analysts suggesting further losses in 2025 due to sluggish growth and global uncertainties. The department's budget, marred by cuts and below inflation increases, cannot address this crisis. For a decade, we have called for more labor inspectors to enforce compliance with labour laws. Yet initiatives like Project 20K, which promises 20,000 inspectors across provinces, remain a hollow gimmick with no funding or implementation plan. Workers in retail, hospitality, aviation, and factories face rampant exploitation, paid in tips, working grueling hours, and denied benefits. Many earn below the national minimum wage of 27.58 Rand per hour. Yet inspectors are nowhere to be found. The International Labour Organization recommends 1 inspector per 10,000 workers. But South Africa's ratio is closer to 1 per 30,000, leaving workers vulnerable. The minister's budget speech was a litany of complaints about funding constraints, offering no solutions. High vacancy rates, raised repeatedly in committee meetings, remain unaddressed. The CCCMA, which we have urged to expand its role in preventing disputes and promoting social stability, is hamstrung by budget cuts and cannot even fulfill its mandate. Netlag faces a 13% budget reduction over the medium term, further eroding its ability to foster dialogue between labour, business and government. The Compensation Fund and Unemployment Insurance Fund are in disarray. Mismanagement and theft during COVID-19 exposed their vulnerabilities, yet restructuring efforts remain stagnant. Reports from the Auditor General highlight persistent governance failures, with senior managers implicated in conflicts of interest. Workers who rely on these funds for injury compensation or unemployment relief are left waiting, their dignity trampled on. This department is in crisis, lacking direction, strategy, or a workable plan. The proposed budget, with its cuts and inadequate increases, will deepen the suffering of South African workers and the unemployed. The economic freedom fighters reject this budget outright. We demand a radical overhaul, increased funding for labour inspections, a fully resourced CCMA, and functional social security systems. Let us honour the 12 million excluded South Africans by rejecting this budget and demanding one that will truly serve the people of South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Langa.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Angithobeke kungqongqoshe osekela ngqongqoshe abakhona ubuholi bomnyango abahlonishwa and fellow South Africans. House Chair, this department sits at the heart of one of the greatest challenges facing our nation, unemployment. With over 7 million South Africans jobless and a growing youth bulge, the IFP believes that every rand appropriated must serve a clear, measurable, and transformative purpose. It is in this context that we examine this budget. We acknowledge the department's stated commitment to promoting employment and regulating the labour market, as well as the 7 strategic priorities that seek to strengthen regulatory capacity, enhance service delivery, and expand employment interventions. We support these objectives in principle, but we are compelled to question the pace and the efficacy of implementation. The total allocation of 4.15 billion rands for 2025-2026 represents a modest increase over the previous year. We note, however, the uneven performance of the department's programs and entities. The Public Employment Services Program receives over 1 billion rands this year, which is its highest allocation ever. This is a welcome sign, especially considering its aim to register 130,000 work seekers and create 70,000 opportunities. However, we urge the department to ensure that these are real, long-term jobs, not short-term placements with no developmental impact. South Africa does not need temporary relief, we need a labor market overhaul. We are concerned about the ongoing challenges within the Inspection and Enforcement Services Program. Non-compliance with labor laws, especially in sectors like domestic work, agriculture, and construction, remains rampant. We support the department's plan to increase inspection capacity and digitalize enforcement tools, but we stress effective law is enforced law. Too many workers remain unprotected in practice. A critical area that deserves stronger prioritization is the supported employment enterprises. This initiative to create jobs for persons with disabilities must be seen as flagship of inclusive employment. Yet SEE still operates in only 8 provinces, with Mpumalanga lacking a single factory. This is unacceptable. We call on the department to fast-track the proposed satellite projects to ensure that the SEE becomes a national success, not a marginalized afterthought. We further raise concerns regarding productivity South Africa, whose work is crucial to retaining jobs in distressed firms and promoting competitiveness. We note gaps in rural outreach, especially among informal enterprises. If we're serious about township and rural economic revitalization, this must change. The CCMA continues to receive the lion's share of labor policy and industrial relations funding. We support this, given the rising demand for dispute resolution. But the backlog in finalizing cases and the public frustration with turnaround times must be addressed with agency. We will support Budget Vote 31, but with conditions. We demand stronger oversight over implementation, faster turnaround times for employment support, and meaningful protection of vulnerable workers. The budget...
Order, honourable members.
No, they are known for intimidating, so it's not working, it won't work. This budget must serve the people, not bureaucracy. If we are to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state, then the department must lead by example. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Peterson.
Thank you. Greetings, honourable members. Thank you, as Chairperson, Minister. On behalf of the Patriotic Alliance, I rise in the support of the Portfolio Committee on Employment. I know you know, we are just reminding you. Our nation stands at a critical juncture where job creation, labour rights, and economic inclusion must be at a forefront of our legislative agenda. The Patriotic Alliance firmly believes that the decent work and fair labour practices are the bedrock of a just and prosperous South Africa. The report reflects a commitment of addressing unemployment, workplace inequality, and skills development issues that disproportionately affect the working class and marginalized communities. We welcome the emphasis on expanding employment opportunities, strengthening labor inspectorate systems, and protecting vulnerable workers from exploitation. However, Minister, we must ensure that these plans translate into tangible outcomes of our people. The Patriotic Alliance calls for accelerated implementation of job creation programs, particularly for youth and women. Strict enforcement of labor laws to combat worker abuse, especially in sectors like farming and domestic work. Greater collaboration with the private sector and community organizations to drive sustainable employment. While we support this report, We urge the department to prioritize accountability and measurable results. Too often, plans remain on paper while our people suffer. And the Patriotic Alliance will monitor progress closely and hold government to its promises. We support. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Denner.
Deputy Minister, we'll see. Chairperson, thank you. House Chair, this department and its entities are of the utmost importance to ensure that effect is given to the most basic human rights enshrined in our Constitution. Human dignity, equality, sound labour relations, the right to an environment that is not harmful to one's well-being, healthcare, food, water, and social security. All of these rights and more are linked in some way or another to the Department of Employment and Labour's mandate to promote employment and ensure decent work and economic growth. Het hierdie departement histories daarin geslaag om gevolg te gee aan hierdie mandaat? Slaag het tans? Die minister dink so, maar die data en Suid-Afrikaners oor die algemeen en baie van die partye wat hier gepraat het vandag sal verskil. Ongelukkig is 4 minute 'n bietjie min om al die belangrike punte aan te raak, maar ek sal van die belangrikstes aanraak soos wat ek aangaan. Inspection and enforcement services. Our labour inspectors are overburdened, undervalued, and undercapacitated. The risk of insufficient inspector capacity to cover vast geographic areas and higher employer volumes, as identified by the department, has been the case year after year, with an accompanying mitigation strategy of the recruitment of additional inspectors in each and every budget. Hier het ons dit weer en ons sal dit waarskynlik in die volgende strategiese plan en begroting ook weer sien as daar nie nou ernstig gemaak word met hierdie kwessie nie. Die regering moet dalk ook eers voor sy eie deur vee. Hoewel geen werkgewer mag toelaat dat enige werknemer onder enige nadelige toestande werk nie, is dit veral die regering se plig om toe te sien dat sy eie personeel nie onder haaglike omstandighede werk nie. Soos ons onlangs gesien het, toe sale 9 en 10 by die Universiteitshospitaal in Bloemfontein weens daardie rede gesluit is, en dankie aan daardie arbeidsinspekteurs wat dit gedoen het, moet ek byvoeg. Chairperson, the compensation fund continues to be dysfunctional to the detriment of workers who are especially in dire need of assistance. Mr. Hansie de Waal, a farm worker from Rivier Sonder End, has been waiting nearly 2 years just for an appointment with a specialist to assess his back injury for his appeal to the compensation fund. The compensation fund cannot succeed in securing someone to see him. He cannot work, he cannot provide for his family, he can hardly walk. How many Hansies are out there in dire need of assistance from the compensation fund, and not for a lack of trying, I might add? The Unemployment Insurance Fund. Risks identified include adverse audit findings such as disclaimer opinions and delays in claim adjudication and benefit payments. Ms. Lucinda Durr, another example, has been waiting 2 years for her maternity leave benefit payment to be paid out, just like Ms. Kotze that was mentioned earlier. She needed that income to provide for her family and her newborn baby. How many Lucindas and Ms. Kotzes are out there not receiving the necessary relief due to internal inefficiencies of the fund? I can go on, but my time, I see, is limited. Chair, the Department of Labour's strategic priorities align towards inclusive growth and job creation, poverty reduction and lower cost of living. This looks good on paper, but in reality will never be obtained with the current economic policies, overregulation of the labour market and race-based labour legislation. The vision of this department is a labour market which is conducive to investment, economic growth, employment creation, and decent work. But this vision will never be realized while this department does not understand the definition of insanity and continues to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Beasley.
House Chair, Minister, Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members and fellow South Africans. ActionSA is of the view that the Ministry of Employment and Labour should be renamed the Ministry of No Jobs and No Responsibility. At the end of the 6th Parliament, South Africa was already in the grip of an unemployment crisis. Under the GNU and the current leadership of this ministry, that crisis has only deepened. The expanded unemployment rate has worsened, climbing from 42.6% to 43.1%. According to the latest figures, nearly 300,000 people lost their jobs in the first quarter alone. That means 5,000 South Africans will return home today without jobs, another 5,000 tomorrow, and the same every working day that follows. There are now 8.2 million unemployed South Africans, with an additional 3.5 million so discouraged that they've given up even trying to find work. That's nearly 12 million people left without opportunity, without support, and without hope. But these are not just statistics. They are the lived experience of millions of South Africans, real people suffering under a ministry that has turned its back on them, a ministry of no jobs. What is most disconcerting is that when I asked the minister, does she take any responsibility for job losses, the answer was an emphatic no. Minister, if not you, then who? If not your department, then whose job is it to care? A ministry of no responsibility. Chair, we must also express serious concern about the ongoing governance failures at the UIF and Compensation Fund. Instead of serving as lifelines for injured and unemployed workers, these funds have become a breeding ground for mass looting and impunity. The very institutions meant to provide relief in times of hardship are now robbing workers of their dignity and their right to financial security. It is unacceptable that both funds continue to receive qualified and adverse audit opinions year after year without any consequences. Chairperson, to create an environment more conducive to job creation, ActionSA will continue to champion reforms, including greater flexibility and innovation in labour practices and regulations, exemptions for SMEs from agreements reached at collective bargaining councils, greater diversity in the private sector through incentives, not coercion, increased insourcing within public departments and entities, and improved governance at the UIF and Compensation Fund. Chair, in conclusion, when you look into the eyes of someone who is unemployed, you see pain. And the longer they are unemployed, the deeper that pain becomes. It's not just the absence of work, it is a suffocating darkness that consumes hope, dignity, and self-worth. A darkness caused by a failing government and a failing ministry. On behalf of all those left behind, all those suffocating in that darkness, ActionSA rejects the budget of the Ministry of No Jobs and No Responsibility. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Beasley. Order, honourable members. We now invite the Honourable Deputy Minister of Labour, Honourable Spear.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members of the Parliament, ministers and deputy ministers present, honourable members of the Portfolio Committee led by Honourable Maneli, the departmental officials who are led by the acting DG, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Chairperson, we are living in a country that is really interesting. It's amazing how some of the opposition parties in this country are weak. Very weak, Chair, to a level that you expect that while you criticize government or the
Honourable
department...
Deputy Minister, can you step aside, take your seat?
I will step aside.
Yeah, take your seat. Just, Honourable Member, I recognize you.
Thank you, House Chair. No, I just wanted to tell the Deputy Minister to return the school uniform to his boy. He must return the school uniform to his boy.
Honourable Member, can I address you? You do not just press the mic and start speaking. Honourable Member, I will not allow spurious points of orders. May you please be orderly and respect the decorum of the House. Honourable Deputy Minister, you can continue.
That's exactly the confirmation, Chairperson, how weak the opposition is, not even understanding the rules of this parliament. They don't bring solutions, all they do is to criticize, and they expect the people of this country to take them serious. Chairperson, these are the realities we are faced with. It's very, very painful, Chair. I wish, Chair, at a certain point in time, we can be in a situation where people stop grandstanding when it comes to debates and serving their own interest. Because they come with the names of people who are poor here, complaining that they are not being helped, instead of bringing those names to us and respond to them and assist the people who are poor. We are able to do that. We do it every day, Chairperson. Chairperson, this year we commemorate Nelson Mandela International Day on the 18th of July under the poignant theme, "It's still in our hands to combat poverty and equality." These words are more than a call to action, Chairperson. They are a reminder of our collective responsibility as the nation beyond our color and creed. We have a responsibility to shape our country. We must make sure that our children must inherit a better country than the country that we inherited, Chairperson. Chairperson, I would like to pick up this debate on the issue of inspection and enforcement. It would be a cardinal error to underplay the role that is played by the inspectorate in the context of employment creation and job preservation. It is common knowledge that the unemployment rate has crept to unacceptable levels. The decent work agenda, which is at the center of the work done by the inspectorate, plays a significant role in preventing the hemorrhaging of jobs. The MTDP, which is a blueprint of the Government of National Unity, has singled out, amongst others, the matter of tackling poverty and reducing the cost of living. Chairperson, at the nucleus of employment laws is the matter of ensuring that the sheer numbers of vulnerable workforce do not toil in vain. The Basic Conditions of Employment Act and the National Minimum Wage are pivotal instruments in fortifying the right of workers to fair remuneration and standards of employment that bode well with workers' rights. In the financial year of 2024-25, 310,798 inspections were carried out. Of these, 168,884 were Basic Condition of Employment Act and National Minimum Wage Act, whilst 107,808 were occupational health and safety inspections. While these numbers are not small, it is our desire to cast our net as wide as possible. This is an indication that the inspection and enforcement is done and we are active and we are at work as the department. To ensure adequate social security to the workforce, our employer audit services inspectors conducted 30,033 inspections to test compliance with Compensation of Injuries and Disease Act and the Unemployment Insurance Act. During all this inspection, 101,386,541 rand was enforced for various legislations. 78 million rand, 669,849 rands was recovered on behalf of the vulnerable workers in the form of underpayments of wages and salaries. Effectively, Chairperson, that was money that went to the pocket of employees by our own inspectors and the IES team that is at work in the Department of Employment and Labour. A demonstration that we are obsessed with making a real difference in lives of the workers of this country. The compliance levels of employers at workplace inspected during the 2024-25 financial year were as follows, Chairperson. Per legislation, Basic Condition of National Minimum Wage in 89%, occupational health and safety at 65%, employer audit, UIA and UICA on 40%, Employment Equity Act on 38%, COIDA on 31%. Nationally, for all labor legislation, compliance was at an average of 53%, which is not a good picture, and it needs all of us, because amongst us here, some of you are employers, and you are also non-compliant on the legislations that we have put and enacted as the country. So it must start with us as well. Chairperson, I want to say it's very, very important that we take it serious what we do as the country. We have collaborated with sister departments and institutions such as Department of Home Affairs, the South African Police Services, the South African Revenue Services, and Bargaining Council and municipal law enforcers to conduct national high-impact blitz inspections. To date, we have expanded these inspections to the following sectors: hospitality, construction, agriculture, textile and clothing, chemical and wholesaler, and retail. Chair, we must say it here that there is a need in this country to deal with the issue of illegal immigrants who are working in different companies in this country, and it needs all of us to collaborate in dealing with that, because what we see during our inspections is a huge number of illegal immigrants who are working in our companies illegally, and they are employed by South Africans, and we must discourage employers who are employing illegal foreign immigrants, because if we deal with that, if there is no one who employ them, we won't have them. So it's very, very important to do that. And Chairperson, I must say that with the anger that I see on the left, they will need CCMA to deal with their challenges that they are faced with, because they really need to be assisted. They are collapsing every day.
House Chair.
Chairperson, the capacity in terms of numbers is desirable. I knew it will hurt them, Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Honorable Member, Rule 79 says you only speak when you are recognized. So this tendency of just pressing on the mic will not be. If you raise your hand, I will note you. If you raise your hand, I will note you, Honorable Member, and I will afford you the opportunity to speak. But please do not just press the mic and start screaming. It is entirely out of order. You are now recognized, Honorable Member.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, I'm raising in terms of Rule 68 that the debate and the submissions that are being made by the Deputy Minister are irrelevant. We understand that the submissions of the MK party were highly sophisticated, so he doesn't understand them. What debating about unemployment and employment in South Africa, be in context.
Honorable Member, you are saying you are raising a point of order on Rule 68, and that's just irrelevant. The speech that you are bringing is entirely out of order now, because you've had your opportunity to speak through your member. And allow me to caution you, Honorable Member, because really we need to allow the debate to continue. But coming in with spurious points of orders and also not allowing the rules following the rules of the House is entirely out of order from your side. Honorable Deputy Minister, may you continue?
Thank you, Chair. You know, when you've got an LLB degree and an MKP renders you useless, you'll make that noise. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, we are being lobbied for a very noble cause. We kindly request your support to the SEE, a brilliant government initiative of employing people with disabilities. SEE currently employs 1,000 people with disabilities and has the potential to grow this to over 3,000 disabled persons, the most vulnerable in our society and the nation. This is a noble cause, Chairperson. I challenge each and every organ of the state to commit on spending at least 5% of its office furniture, schools furniture, textile, and hospital linen, etc. Budget on the SSEs is very, very important that we increase it. If public procurement is meant to address the inequality and empower vulnerable groups of our society, then it must boldly include disability empowerment in its design and execution. SEE provides such an opportunity for our people. On CCMA matters, Chair, which I think we can offer our services pro bono to some. CCMA is our pride as the country. It is entrusted with the important responsibility of creating an enabling labor dispute resolution environment to advance economic development, social justice, labor peace, and democratization of the workplace. Its legislative mandate gives effect to and regulates the fundamental rights conferred by Section 23 of the Constitution. The 2025-2030 CCMA strategic plan is titled Momentum Empowering Progress, Embracing Change, is designed to meet evolving labor markets demands and is built on three
Honourable
strategic
Deputy
thrusts.
Minister, can you take a moment? Honourable member, yeah.
Honorable Slepe.
You are recognized.
Yes. Chair, is it parliamentary to record with your cell phone during the proceeding of the session?
Recording,
With your phone?
is it an
DG.
honourable member? Is it an honourable member
DG.
who is doing that?
It's Dichi. I think Dichi.
No,
She's recording.
honourable member,
With her phone.
I did not see that.
Yeah, I did saw it. I rose because she was recording.
Yes, but remember, the chairperson has to be the one that is also able
Hence
to
I'm
see.
asking. Hence I'm asking.
Honourable member, in the house sitting.
Akaphume.
No, it can't be. Honourable member, can you switch off that mic? Continue, DM.
Thank you very much, Chair. Key strategic focus for 2025-26 at the CCMA. The CCMA will do the following, Chair. Impact on the labor market. One of the focus will be on the labor market and its impact. While the CCMA continues to fulfill its legislative mandate, the reduced grant has resulted in longer turnaround times for dispute resolutions processes such as arbitration, which is 85 days, and 190 days for 2024-25. This is a challenge that we need to be frank about and tackle it head on. Honourable Chairperson, despite the reality of poor economic outlook, the labour market that continues to grapple with rail infrastructural challenges and tariffs that put pressure on the business to re-evaluate input cost and consider restructuring operations, the commitment and dedication of all role players in mitigating against job losses saw the CCMA facilitated processes resulting to 30,581 jobs being saved of those employees who were facing retrenchment out of 64,919. Honourable Chairperson, I had mentioned that CCMA is our pride, that CCMA is our jewel and the center of excellence in our country, and we would want CCMA to be supported and continue to do its work, but also will continue to also offer our services to those who are in need at any given moment. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister. Order, honourable members. We now invite the Honourable Zibi.
Honourable members must be careful with these nicknames because this is on TV. Now somebody sees me at the mall there and uses one of these nicknames. So please. Thank you, House Chair. Out of this vote, I would like to discuss two issues for the consideration of the Minister and the Portfolio Committee. The first is providing support to work seekers. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is the concept of a job seekers grant. As all the members know very well, looking for work is expensive, especially given our spatial injustices. Many job seekers eventually give up, not because they do not wish to work anymore or opportunities are not available, but because they cannot afford to look for work. I would like to ask Minister that you consider this in future, and perhaps we can look at partly funding it out of a remodeled SRD grant or the Unemployment Insurance Fund. I know that this would be challenging to administer, but we need a way to help people pay for airtime, access to the internet, payment for transport, to get to interviews, and so on. Given our high unemployment, I think many of us here as members support a few relatives in this way as they look for work. And I know, Minister, that given where you and I come from, this is especially expensive because towns are really, really far. Please look at this, look at what can be done. The second relates to work readiness. During my career, I encountered many smart young people who just needed work readiness training. I was in fact involved with one such program with Professor Nicholas Biekpe, who was then at the University of Stellenbosch and subsequently at the University of Cape Town. The transformation of a young person who is clearly talented from a nervous wreck who cannot do a PowerPoint presentation, speak in front of people in a formal setting, do business writing properly, is a wonder to see when they get the help that they need. Within 6 months, the same quietly spoken young people were confident, articulate, humorous, and coherent in the challenges given to them. You would think they'd been working for a few years. These are things that we can do in a structured manner to improve employability. We can partner with academic institutions where this is done either as a final year vocational training program or post-qualification while the young person is looking for work. We can also work with companies, sitters, and so on. For many families, one person getting a sustainable job is not only the difference between hunger and nutrition, but generational transformation of that family's fortunes. I know all of us are trying, but let us try more things and give as many people as possible an opportunity to find work. We will support the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Zibi. We invite the Honorable Webster. Honorable Hlazo Webster.
Angisho. Ngeke confirm. Honorable Chairperson, I'd like to begin by stating upfront that here we're not dealing with the Department of Labor and Employment. We're actually dealing with the Department of Labor and Unemployment. And I think it helps to frame it that way and to take it from that perspective, because then it helps with the work which the minister and the department have to do to have that understanding. There are currently 11.7 million people who are trapped in unemployment and relegated to the outskirts of the economy in this country. Minister, what do you say to the graduate who's been unemployed for 5 years and is still owing NSFAS? Or the mother who works 2 jobs but is still earning less than a junior male colleague? You don't need statistics to understand that something is very deeply broken in our labor market, but the numbers do confirm it. The job stats tell us that 427,000 more people joined the unemployment line in the last year. That's almost 500,000 more South Africans who are without work and cannot find employment. This department should actually then be one of the most active in all of government, yet for far too long, we've had ministers who promise jobs while presiding over an economy that does not grow and a labor market that does not absorb that level of unemployment. The minister has a duty and responsibility to lead with authority, and I want to say with urgency, in tackling unemployment. Now that the minister has had a full year in office, we think that she's settled, and we want to encourage that she urgently scales up the efforts of this department. And Minister, in addition to this mandate, we as Build One South Africa has a concurrent project which we wish for you and every MP on the committee to join us in. It's a matter that goes to the heart of justice in the marketplace and deals with the uneven balance in power structures in South Africa's labor market, with employers holding all the cards when it comes to this. When applying for jobs, candidates' salary histories are actually used against them to justify lower pay. And once that happens, many find themselves trapped in a system that undervalues their skills and offers little power to negotiate a fair wage. Basically, if you started on the back foot, the system says that you will always be on the back foot. So this is what the Fair Pay Bill, which I introduced in Parliament in June, seeks to change. By amending the Employment Equity Act, this bill would grant employees the right to discuss job offers, to talk openly about remuneration and job offers, breaking that secrecy that takes place in these areas. It would strengthen equal pay for equal work, ensuring pay must be based on merit, qualifications, and experience, and it would require employers to declare salary ranges. And so I wish to implore the Minister and MPs in this committee to read the bill and strongly consider supporting it through the legislative process. And it's in that light that we give our support to this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hlazo Webster. We invite the Honorable Zungula.
Greetings, commanders, greetings, fighters, greetings to all of the progressive caucus. We welcome the commitment by the department to recruit 20,000 labor inspectors as a step in the right direction when it comes to strengthening compliance with labor legislation. This intervention is urgently needed given the current complement of inspectors, which is 1,400 nationally, is nowhere sufficient for a labor market the size and complexity of South Africa. Last year, only 234,000 inspections were conducted across the country. The inspectors must be adequately trained and mechanisms must be put in place to prevent bribery and corruption. With over 2.6 million registered companies and more than 5 million workers in the informal sector, we remain critically understaffed in ensuring basic worker protections. This leaves many employers to act with impunity, especially in the most vulnerable sectors of our economy, which is domestic work, farms, retail, construction, and security services. In too many cases, workers are denied their most basic rights. There are no contracts, no UIF contributions, no health and safety measures, no overtime pay, and no consequences for the employer. When the inspections are done, the focus is on the workers, hence they are arrested and deported. Yet the employers who are the source of the problem are not touched. If the department can aggressively deal with the employers that sideline local workers in favor of cheap and slave labor, the unemployment rate would be drastically reduced. Minister, go after the employers who create these problems. The penalties for the employers who violate labor and immigration laws need to be reviewed. The current fine is not a deterrent. The country cannot be obsessed with international obligations, yet we are sitting with a crisis of having the highest unemployment levels. Our national interest must trump the so-called internationalism. We further urge the department to ensure the training and scaling programs, such as those under the UIF and LAB, are made available outside the metropolitan areas. Labor law compliance means nothing if the people do not know their rights. It means even less if they can't access services to enforce those rights. Lastly, Minister, the unemployment rate in South Africa is 42.1%, which is the expanded definition. It is not 10% or 32%. These are not abstract figures. They represent millions of shattered hopes and households stripped of their dignity and income. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We now invite the Honourable Mahlatsi.
Thank you, Chairperson. To the Progressive Caucus, Hoto, Africa. Honorable members, unemployment in South Africa is not a mistake. It is a result of a deliberate economic structure, a microeconomic framework, and labor market model designed to serve capital, not our communities. Since the 1970s, the capital-labor ratio has doubled across all sectors, meaning that the machines has replaced the workers while the rich get richer and our people sink deeper into exclusion. In mining, capital expenditure per worker has risen by over 230% in real terms, yet jobs are disappearing. In manufacturing, the rise over 120%. This vote does nothing to reverse this jobless growth model. Even worse, microeconomic policies inherited from GEAR, tight monetary policy, fiscal austerity, and accelerated trade liberalization continue to slash public investment, suffocate demand, and promote deindustrialization. The result is shrinking home market, rising import, and destruct of local manufacturing jobs. Chairperson, The vote pretend to empower labor while endorsing labor market deregulation and dual labor markets. This spells the end of the living wage, the end of dignity for workers, and the Trump casualization and precarity. Workers are expected to survive without benefits, without pension, without protection. And who suffers most? It's African workers, women, youth, still bearing the economic chains of apartheid, job reserve laws, spatial segregation, and institutionalized under-education. Time, poverty exclude rural women who still fetch water and wood instead of participating in the economy. Youth unemployment stand above 45%, and still the vote offers training programs without jobs, without internship, without future. This vote also ignored the spatial divide between urban job center and rural communities. How can we build an exclusive economy when potential workers and potential jobs remain geographically constrained? And the state does nothing to resolve this dislocation created by colonial land theft and apartheid planning. Chairperson, if we do not confront this historical structural injustice, no amount of labor inspection or job summit will save us. The United African Transformation proposed an alternative path. A Pan-African industrial policy driven by state-led investment and workers' own production.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Motlatsi wa ministera o tshilo are bohle ba phua ba hlophehang hae he le batla thuso le ye di-officing tsa hae o tsholo are ha le hloka thuso le kaya bana ba yeso khandi mambo.
Honourable members, we invite the Honourable Thring.
Chairperson. Chairperson.
Can you switch off your mic? No, not this one. There, that one. Honourable Member, it was going to be sufficient for you to raise your hand and allow me to note.
I did.
Allow me to note.
I did.
Honourable Member.
I did.
Honourable Member, if you have
For
raised
clarity, the UAT rejects.
Honourable Member, that is entirely. Honourable members, please do not abuse the rules. You had your opportunity to present. You also even went to access of your minutes. So that is entirely out of order. Honourable Thring, can you come in?
Thank you, House Chairperson. The Department of Employment and Labour has been allocated a total budget of some 4.15 billion rand in the 2025-26 financial year. The ACDP acknowledges the department's strategic priority to drive inclusive growth and job creation. With the official unemployment rate, however, at 32.9%, the expanded unemployment rate at some 43.1%, and youth unemployment at 62.4%, it is clear that this department and others dedicated to job creation are failing South African job seekers. On UIF payments, Honourable Minister, the ACDP has received complaints of delays of up to 20 days for payment to be released because of after a UIF claim has been approved. There apparently is another waiting period or approval process which takes place at the department's head office in Pretoria. And so the waiting period, however, for dependents of deceased contributors can be up to 18 months, and this adds insult to injury. And so the ACDP calls on the department to rectify this so as to provide a dignified service to the unemployed. This department's 4.15 billion allocation, while purpose-driven, is constrained. We note the prioritization of employment facilitation, enforcement of labor rights, and inclusion of people with disabilities through the Supported Employment Enterprise, or the SEE. Yet the SEE itself faces a projected deficit, raising questions about the sustainability of its constitutional mandate. The ACDP acknowledges the intent to address unemployment, poverty, and inequality. However, we remain deeply concerned that despite these plans, the unemployment crisis persists with continuing disparities across the gender, race, with women and youth in particular facing disproportionately higher levels of unemployment. The ACDP also agrees with Professor Mbeki Ngomezulu of the University of Nelson Mandela University, who has argued that BEE has been derailed by corruption and elite capture, fostering disillusionment, hence must be replaced with an empowerment system which benefits all South Africans. As kingdom builders, the ACDP calls for the addressing of the root causes of unemployment, which includes policy stability, infrastructure. This has resulted in infrastructure collapse, a hostile business environment, the root causes of unemployment. Instruments that are critical to aligning skills development with market demand and restoring dignity through work must be supported. As we stated in last year's debate, when unemployment rises in inverse proportion to GDP, it becomes a threat to national security. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. We now invite the Honourable Bekrim.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, the Executive, my colleagues. Thank you. Labour is not working. The bottom line is we hold out a hand of friendship to the Executive. We look forward to working with you. Let's take away the politics. Let's ensure that at the end of the day we create jobs. I'm fully aware that our government is cash-strapped and has to cut its cloth accordingly. Furthermore, I'm aware that every ministry has been instructed to curtail unnecessary expenditure in every single facet without affecting service delivery. That being said, the Department of Employment and Labour has notoriously been lacking in service delivery over the past 25 years. The DA's court case in employment equity shows how destructive the matter can become, how destructive regulations become. In particular, the UIF and the Compensation Fund can hold up high their enormous failure. This failure has consistently disappointed and simultaneously angered the public. Both these entities have been moved into separate standalone structures. Both these entities receive enormous funding directly from the employees and the employers of South Africa. The UIF and the Compensation Fund must use these incoming funds in order to drive service delivery and administration, rather than funding the department's other schemes. We regularly see the department tapping into the UIF reserves to service other madcap schemes, such as investment in brand new entities with no history of service delivery at all. The purpose of these funds is to protect South African workers. Instead, they've been squandered for years and billions of rands have gone down the drain. The Labour Activation Programme has likewise gobbled up the UIF funds to the employees of South Africa and just about to embark on further expenditure of another 15 billion rand. Bearing in mind the Democratic Alliance's commitment to curtailing wasteful expenditure, we need to re-examine Productivity South Africa. In the same breath, we need to revisit supported employment enterprises who hardly make a dent in creating an employment environment for the disability sector. These millions of rands could be better spent in supporting the disability sector directly, who have their own workshops and are able to run factories and workshops more efficiently and more effectively. We keep reading about the workshops being forced to close down due to lack of finance, when in fact they run their workshops on a tiny fraction of what the government spends. Two entities in the department need better funding and certainly a lot more support. Firstly, the jewel in the crown of the department, the CCMA, has had its budget cut for the past 3 years. This budget cut has been devastating to the public and indeed to the staff and management of the CCMA. Desperate dismissed employees who used to get their arbitrations within 60 days are now waiting up to 18 months and longer before their cases can be heard. One can understand in a country such as South Africa, where we have the highest unemployment in the world, that a labour dispute over an alleged unfair dismissal is not only urgent but life-changing. The CCMA's decline is bad for employers, employees alike. NEDLAC's ability to bring labour, government and business to the table is vital and will be more and more important over the forthcoming 4 years of this administration. We have seen some earth-shattering proposed amendments to our labour laws, which will go to the core of job creation in South Africa. These proposed amendments emanate from the fruitful negotiations taking place around the table at NEDLAC. Instead of the President earmarking 700 million rand for the formation of a new debating chamber, we should be properly funding NEDLAC, which already exists, already works, and has already all the partners around the table. It's important to ensure that every department, and in particular the Department of Employment and Labour, uses its money wisely, efficiently, and at the same time enhances delivery to our deserving citizens. This department is there to act as a safety net for all our South Africans, both employers and employees, and indeed consumers. The DA will continue to work to make sure it does. Once again, Minister, we hold out a hand of friendship. We look forward to resolving the unemployment crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. Order, Honourable Members. We invite the Honourable Nonsele. Honourable Zungula, I recognize you.
No, I was just checking if everything is fine with Honourable Nonsale.
I think Honourable Nonsale has got his groove back. You may continue. You may begin.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Thank you. Good afternoon to Honourable Minister and Deputy Ministers, Honourable Chair of the Portfolio Committee, Honourable Members and guests. Honourable Chairperson, House Chairperson, today we gather to deliberate on the Budget Vote 31 of the Department of Employment and Labour for the fiscal year that is of 2025-2026. As we do so, we also commemorate two pivotal milestones that stand as pillars of our journey towards democracy, social justice and economic transformation. The 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter and the 30th anniversary of the Constitutional Court being these highlights. These anniversaries served as profound reminders of our enduring struggle for liberation and the rule of law principles that continue to underpin our efforts to build a just, equitable, and inclusive society. As we celebrate this month, the Mandela Month, we are reminded of the struggles and sacrifices made to attain our freedoms and ongoing responsibility to uphold these values through deliberate policies and effective execution. In earlier submission, House Chair, there's been statements that has been made by Honourable van der Walt to say the amendments to and the implementation to Employment Equity Act are in fact an entrenchment of racism. The targets and quotas that have been set by Honourable Minister and supported by this portfolio committee are in fact a setback. I'm paraphrasing her submissions. House Chair, that cannot be closer to truth. Because if we look into the history,
Nonsele, may you just hold. Honourable Member, Honorable Member Honorable Member Mpele, Honorable Member Mpele, Honorable Member Mpele, before you leave, before you exit, when leaving the House, you cannot walk across a speaker. May you please maintain the decorum of the House. You may
Honorable House Chair,
continue. Order, honorable members, continue.
Honorable House Chair, the points therefore raised by Honorable Van der Waal should be rejected. These issues that we raise, Chair, underline the urgent need to rethink the resource allocation, improve management efficiencies, and strengthen accountability mechanisms. They highlight that despite some administrative challenges, our overarching goal remains to prioritize high-impact programs that deliver measurable outcomes, creating real opportunities for employment, poverty reduction, and social upliftment. Despite these hurdles, we remain resolute to the strategic focus that must be on channeling investment into sectors with high potential for job creation and social impact, especially those that support township enterprises and unserviced communities. We must prioritize development efforts in local industries and sectors that uplift vulnerable groups such as youth, women, persons with disabilities, and marginalized communities still grappling with remnants of apartheid-era economic disparities. This approach aligns with the goals of the district development model, which emphasizes localized development efforts that are tailored to the unique realities and potentials of each community. By empowering local authorities and communities to take charge of their economic destinies, we foster sustainable growth that benefits those who need it most and reduces reliance on centralized decision-making. The district development model enables more effective resource routing at grassroots level, supporting infrastructure development, local entrepreneurship, and employment opportunities. It aims to reduce socioeconomic inequalities by building communities capable of sustaining their development trajectories. This department's role in supporting this model, especially through targeted investment like the Labor Absorption Program, is therefore vital. These resources must be deployed strategically to promote and formalize informal sector in particular, to stimulate entrepreneurship and create work opportunities tailored to the specific needs of each district. Such an approach not only nurtures local economic development, but also enhances accountability and by increasing proximity between policymakers and beneficiaries. Furthermore, our social dialogue platforms such as NetLeg are crucial in fostering unity of purpose amongst government, labor, and business. These platforms facilitate consensus building and coordinated action across sectors, strengthening our collective effort to implement inclusive growth strategies. By engaging all stakeholders, we'll ensure that policies are better aligned and with realities faced on the ground, and that the execution of developmental program is more effective. Inclusive dialogue serves as a vital mechanism to reinforce our shared commitment to social justice and economic fairness, ensuring that the benefits of growth are broadly distributed and that nobody is left behind. Therefore, the recent Cabinet approval of National Labour Migration Policy and Employment Services Amendment Bill is a step in the right direction. Honorable Mpele again made a statement here to the effect that we are not taking steps to address the influx of illegal foreigners. The introduction of this policy, that is the National Labour Migration Policy, is in fact directed to address that and to arrest the influx of illegal foreigners. That is coupled with the Employment Services Amendment Bill,
which should in fact help to regulate how markets, particularly the areas that Honorable Bagram has been speaking about, should be dealt with, particularly on areas of low concentration in terms of labor. Like, for instance, if you're talking about, in terms of the Employment Equity Act, the targets, you can't then assault us when talking about the low concentration of Africans on the western side of the country, because apartheid designed it in that way. So we must address that history, Honorable Bagram and the Honorable van der Walt. We can't leave it like that. Otherwise, we'll be collaborators perpetually with the apartheid system whilst we are saying we're a democratic state. In moving forward, Honorable House Chair, a key component of government strategy remains the implementation of national minimum wage, which is pivotal in reducing income inequality and providing a safety net for the most vulnerable workers, particularly farm and domestic workers. In recognizing these strategic priorities, we must also confront the realities of resource limitation and the need for more efficient management. This entails strengthening audit procedures, enhancing monitoring mechanisms, and ensuring that vacancies do not hinder program implementation. In conclusion, Chair, we are emboldened by our shared purpose of our commitment to transform South Africa into a society where opportunities are universal, dignity is a birthright, and economic prosperity benefits all. We call on all stakeholders, government and labor, business and communities to renew their dedication and work together with unity and purpose and harness our collective strength to build an equitable and inclusive nation. Together, we can turn our vision into reality, forging a society where social justice, economic opportunity, and dignity are not just ideals, but lived realities for every citizen. As the President Nelson Mandela said, it is, I open quote, it always seems impossible until it is done, close quote. As ANC, we support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nonsele. We will now invite the Honorable Minister of Labour to close the debate. Honorable members, may I inform you that a minute was left by the DM, and that minute will be added to the Minister's allocated time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Order, Honorable members.
Sometimes it is very stressful to listen to the people that you are fighting for their transformation to come here and reject our fight, including the white women of this country, because some of the people who are still down the ladder in terms of transformation is white women. So it's very stressing to listen to the honorable member from the DA coming here and bashing these transformative laws of employment. We have never shied away from acknowledging the historic and institutional challenges faced by the department, but we did not come here and lament and complain about budget. I think the honorable member who made such a comment did not hear what I said. We have been forthright in engaging with the findings of Auditor General and Portfolio Committee on Employment and Labour and SCOPA. And if honorable members care to look beyond political point scoring, they would see that we are beginning to turn the tide around. Corrective action plans have been instituted. Key financial controls are being strengthened. Irregular and wasteful expenditure is being drastically reduced. Disciplinary processes are being enforced, not ignored. Our leadership team has been stabilized and accountability is no longer negotiable. We are not claiming perfection, but we do claim progress, grounded, measurable, and backed by oversight bodies. This budget vote is not only about new targets, it is about ensuring institutional credibility in how we serve workers, how we protect the unemployed, and restore faith in the machinery of the state. Even as we sit in this very house, arrests are being made and are being executed by law enforcement officers following a months-long investigation in a major fraud and corruption syndicate targeting UIF. This is not speculation. It is action. This morning, the South African Police Services conducted and coordinated a takedown operation in Bloemfontein, Bethlehem, and Gauteng, arresting individuals involved in a sophisticated scam involving UIF claims submitted through fictitious companies. This, honorable members, is but one example of where corruption is being rooted out and where our resolve to clean up the system is finding practical expression. We are working closely with Hawks, SAPS, and other agencies to ensure that no stone is left unturned, not only in the Free State and Gauteng, but across the entire system where fraud is suspected. Let there be no confusion. We take corruption seriously, not just in words, but in visible coordinated action. Where there is wrongdoing, we will expose it. Where there is betrayal of public trust, we will prosecute. Where systems are vulnerable, we will reform and strengthen them. Honorable Chairperson, it did not go unnoticed that the Honorable Van der Walt of the Democratic Alliance chose to frame our efforts at advancing employment equity as being preoccupied with race-based legislation. Let us be clear, it is precisely that attitude that seeks to preserve the status quo, a status quo built on exclusion, dispossession, and structural inequality. What the honorable member calls race-based legislation, we call constitutional redress. We call it equity. We call it justice. And we call it a moral obligation to undo centuries of systemic marginalization in the workplace. You cannot in good conscience ignore that the South African labor market still reflects patterns of privilege and power that mirror our apartheid past. Employment equity is not about exclusion. It is about inclusion. It is about creating fair opportunity in a society where race, gender, and disability have long been used to determine economic destiny. To resist transformation under the guise of non-racialism is to weaponize a noble ideal in defense of historical injustice. Transformation is not a threat to excellence. It is a condition for sustainable prosperity. We are not apologetic for standing firm on Employment Equity Amendment Act. It is aligned with the Constitution informed by Commission for Employment Equity's data and reflective of the lived reality of millions of South Africans who remain locked out of meaningful participation in the economy. We will not allow the struggle for equality to be dismissed as a political inconvenience by those who benefit from inequality. On the matter of unemployment, I've already outlined its seriousness and the deep economic, social, and political implications it holds for the state if left unattended. Let me repeat for the record. No one is running away from the fact, but it must equally be said and understood that government in isolation can never be solely responsible for job creation. That would be economically unsound and institutionally unsustainable. Our responsibility is to create a conducive environment, drive strategic investment, and coordinate efforts across the public and private sector to expand decent work and work opportunities. Unemployment is a national emergency and it demands practical, inclusive, and collaborative responses. In that spirit, we welcome ideas from all corners of this House. Let me specifically thank Honorable Zibi for putting forward the proposal of a job seekers grant. It is a contribution
Honourable
that
member,
deserves...
Honourable Minister, unfortunately your time has expired.
Now 1 minute,
You have gone to access. You have gone to access.
Okay,
your
thank you,
time.
Chair. I thought I had that 1 minute. So I thank every member who contributed, including the criticism. Let's work together.
Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members. Honourable members, order. Malunga lahloniphekile sasifike emaphethelweni enkulumompikiswano yeliphakelo timali laka Labour. Asikhumbude malunga lahloniphekile ukuthi luphakelo timali nenkulumompikiswano tiyachubeka. Good Hope Chamber at 4:30, M46 at 4:30. The debate will be women, youth and persons with disabilities. Good Hope Chamber, it's international relations and cooperation. Malunga lanhloniphekile, indlu ingasukuma.